time to stare into space with Dylan Storey. Thanks very much to the Auckland Stardome Observatory. Dylan, welcome back.
Good morning.
And today we're talking about the upcoming transit of Venus, one of the bigger astronomical events of the year. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, in a way, I guess it's one of the bigger astronomical events of the last 105 years. It's the transit of Venus will be on the 6th of June this year, and that's when Venus passes in front of the Sun. So Venus, the planet, will only be tiny compared to the Sun, so you'll see a tiny little black dot traverse across the Sun. It takes about 6 hours.
When was the last time it happened?
Well, actually, 2004. But before that, it hadn't happened since 1882. The transit of Venus goes on this weird cycle, which sort of demonstrates one of these nice resonances of astronomical events. So it happens in pairs of 8 years at a time, and they are separated by 105 years and 221 years alternately. So there wasn't a transit of Venus in the whole 20th century, and the previous one was 1882.
Right. So it's pretty rare, and New Zealand's history is pretty much tied into the transit of Venus, isn't it?
Yeah. So the cycle before the 1882 cycle was in 1769, and that was the first ever international collaboration science observation project. And one of the people taking part in that was Captain James Cook. And he was sent down to the South Pacific to record the transit of Venus from a different location on Earth, and doing that he happened to stumble upon New Zealand, and the rest, as they say, is history. But so a bit of background on why everyone was trying to measure this. This is the sort of time when the nature of the space of the solar system, the distances involved were starting to be unravelled and discovered. And techniques like this helped to determine the distance from the Earth to the Sun, how far away from the Sun the Earth was. And the basic theory behind it is basic sort of maths triangulation. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you'll be slightly up higher, so you'll see Venus, the position that Venus takes will be slightly different compared to how you'll see it in the southern hemisphere, and from that you can draw a very long skinny triangle and use trigonometry or whatever to determine the distance to the Sun based on how far apart the observations from the north and the south are.
Okay.
So in 1769 they had astronomers all around the world recording the transit of Venus in detail from different locations. Of course their results varied because it's something that's so hard to determine accurately with the technology they had at the time. But they came out with the distance to the Sun being somewhere between 130 and 180 million kilometres. The modern day reading of 149 million kilometres, that was pretty good for those days.
Yeah, not bad at all, really. Okay, so how can one view the transit of Venus?
Right, yeah, when I say see the transit of Venus, I don't mean look at the Sun, because that can be a very bad idea. Looking at the Sun with your eyes, it can hurt your eyes. It can even contribute to blindness. So there are different ways to view it. There are a few places, Stardome included, selling these little solar glasses with dark lenses. So sunglasses aren't nearly dark enough to look at the Sun. You can buy these special little cardboard framed glasses for the event for about $3 or $5 or something. Or you could also come along to Stardome Observatory, where there'll be people around all day, myself included, showing what's going on. There'll be a live video feed, and there's a specially purchased solar camera which is attached to one of the big solar telescope, which is attached to one of the big telescopes to the side of it. The big telescope will obviously have its light doors shut. It could be a disaster if you
no doubt.
One of the big telescopes. Well, I think it actually happened once there by accident, where someone left it open and the Earth moved, and the sun came into view of the telescope, and the sun's rays actually burned a big hole in it sort of went through the telescope, out through the eyepiece, and where that focused on, burned a big hole through the wood.
Holy cow. That's like a laser.
Exactly, yeah. And so you wouldn't want that happening to your eye.
Mm.
So you have to be very cautious when looking at the sun through any sort of magnifying device. So there'll be courtyard telescopes at Stardome projecting it onto lenses. That's another good way of doing it. There's a method with if you get a sort of a panel at the right distance from the telescope eyepiece, you can get a projection of the sun. It's just the danger comes in if you happen to put your hand or something in between the lens and the projection screen.
Yeah. Could get a bit dicey. Well, so what's the exact date?
6th of June, and it will start. So the transit starts at 10:15 a.m. and ends at 4:45 ish.
Well, it's a twice in a lifetime for anyone living now event. So definitely find a way of taking part. I suppose that'd be the message.
Yeah, well, there's another thing you can do if you're not in Auckland able to go to the observatory, or even if you are, you can download an iPhone app, which will help you record the transit yourself. So everyone using the app collects the data of when they see the Venus start to transit the sun and when they see it leave. And so that will collate with all the app users' information to try and recreate that experiment of measuring the distance across the sun. To the sun. So that's another way you can participate.
Okay, cool. The transit of Venus. Go and get involved at the Stardome Observatory in Auckland. Stardome.org.nz is the website, and there's links to the Transit of Venus 2012 on the front there as well. You can continue the conversation and ask questions of Dylan on Twitter as well, twitter.com/Dylan Storey. Thanks very much. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Wammo.